Joining us via Zoom from Sydney, David Basheer. Good to have you on The Informer, mate. A couple of things have been happening. As we all know, Victoria's in lockdown, but you're in the bubble in Sydney watching some A-League and playing some golf and some other things. You did a very worthwhile and very special thing the other day. You raised some money for a tremendous cause, the happenings, of course, in Lebanon, in Beirut. You played golf with a group of people I know about. Give us an idea who was playing.
Well, George, we raised, thanks for mentioning it, we raised $50,000 for the victims of the Beirut bombing at the Pennant Hills Golf Club. A bunch of Australian Lebanese came out there. Robbie Farrow was amongst that crowd at the dinner. The former New South Wales State of Origin captain, Craig Foster, was there, who you know really well. Yeah. A number of other people supported the cause. 50,000 raised for victims, and we saw, you know, the image is still seared in our memory. It was just shocking what happened, and I think a reflection of the corruption that's taken place at government level in Lebanon for so many years. So anything we can do in Australia, we're such a lucky country, and all the Lebanese Australians I spoke to feel really honoured to be part of that type of fundraiser and put something back to the victims of the Beirut blast.
Well said, mate, and congratulations to everyone involved. Most worthy cause. Now, I want to touch on the 2023 Women's World Cup. I know it's a few years away, but I also know that you're very aware of how the international organisations plan way in advance for things that happen 3-4 years away. Now, is Victoria in any danger of losing some of that action of the Women's World Cup because of the state of play at the moment with the lockdown and the biosecurity threat?
At the moment, probably no, but every month that goes by that Victoria does not get on top of this, it becomes a greater reality. And we know in the Men's World Cup, they have a Confederations Cup a year before the main event, which is a bit of a test event to test the logistics and venue and so forth. They don't have that in the women's, but FIFA do have their representatives either virtual or real, probably more virtual these days, inspecting different facilities and going through the local organising committee. Jane Fernandez is, of course, the head of that, and she superbly led the Australia-New Zealand bid. So, look, and we know how sport is inextricably linked to the psyche of Victorians. So it would be a huge blow if that was under threat, any threat of Victoria missing out on hosting duties for that 2023 Women's World Cup. So every month that goes by, that becomes a greater possibility. And unlike hub type scenarios with the AFL and A-League and so forth, this is an international sport where teams have to travel and be 100%, guaranteed of biosecurity measures being in place. So I think Victoria will want to get on top of this. Obviously, the numbers are coming down, but every month that goes by that they lag behind the other states, there's a greater risk of the other states, collecting the vacuum of matches that Victoria maybe otherwise would have hosted.
We're speaking of major events. The US Tennis Open is going to take place, but a very much reduced cast of stars are going to turn up or not turn up. What are we to make of that? And will it likely, or could it impact on the Australian Open, around January of next year?
Well, I was speaking to Wally Masur, who's the technical director or the head of high performance at Tennis Australia, just the other day, because his wife actually is Lebanese. He was going to play in the golf charity, and I was speaking to him about the Australian Open, and he says that they're making contingencies at the moment to plan for no crowds and then partial crowds based on the biosecurity of that day. So that they have a number of different scenarios. They're still very, very confident Melbourne will host the Australian Open. There's no plan to take it away to Sydney. There's some reports suggesting that may be the case, but there's no plans from Tennis Australia at the moment. But it's absolutely essential, if they don't get crowds, that they have a Grand Slam tournament in Melbourne, because financially, Tennis Australia and the whole junior development is linked around this Grand Slam tournament. It financially, it's such a huge bonus. And we know, unlike other events, the media rights globally are very important for the economic health of the sport in Australia. So they're going to be moving heaven and earth to get the Grand Slam in Melbourne in January. But again, it depends on the numbers, it depends on the protocols, and it depends also on the ITF, because the ITF, unlike the ATP, manage all the Grand Slams, the International Tennis Federation. So they put biosecurity measures in place. We heard this morning, George, that Simona Halep, the former world number one, has pulled out of the US Open. So that makes 6 of the top 10 in the women's game out. There's plenty of the men's top 10 out as well. So this is going to really be a Clayton's Grand Slam. But I think for the importance of the sport, it has to happen, because we've got to get tennis played again for such an international sport that's precariously placed with all the travel restrictions and so forth. I salute them for playing it, but certainly the winner of men's and women's singles in this year's Grand Slam at the US Open won't be considered perhaps a true Grand Slam winner. So
do we put an asterisk on the US Open this year?
Well, I think so, as far as being, that classic Grand Slam winner where you're beating the best of the best, because the best of the best won't be there. But, at the moment, we're starved of top level action. We've just had a couple of we had the US PGA in golf played, and that was without crowds, but we still got our fix of golf. And I think tennis purists want their fix of tennis. So they'll take anything they can get. The French Open is another thing. I was supposed to go over to Paris to commentate it on that for the world feed, and that's not happening at the moment because non-essential travel has been cancelled from Australia. But that doesn't mean the Grand Slam won't go ahead. They're still planning on it to go ahead. Whether you're going to have the sort of numbers that pull out in the US Open remains to be seen. I think that's less likely because a lot of the Europeans will play the French Open if it goes ahead.
David, thank you very much for giving us a heads up and an insight into some of the thinking of these international codes. Stay safe, and let's see if we can get, when things happen and open up in Victoria, if we can replicate what you guys did the other day at Pennant Hills, maybe on one of the sandbelt courses in Victoria, to raise money for Beirut.
Good on you, George. I look forward to having a hit with you at some stage, and I look forward to life post-COVID, mate.
Thanks, mate. All the very best. David Basheer on The Informer.